university experience in Canada and provide insight and tools for success. I'm Octavian Turner, and I'm an undergraduate chemistry student at the University of British Columbia and a clinical research assistant in the Division of General Surgery at Vancouver General Hospital. Today, my guest is Brody Lyons. Brody Lyons is a good friend of mine and a clinical research assistant in prevention services at the BC Centre for Disease Control. He is also their research coordinator for their MPOX Stage 3 multi-centered drug trial, where he oversees patient recruitment, drug dispensing, and communications between Montreal and Toronto sites. This year, Brody received his undergraduate degree in biology from the University of British Columbia. He is currently in the process of applying to medical schools in Canada. Today's discussion covers his experience in the biology program at UBC, his advice for incoming and current students, his academic and extracurricular involvements, the steps it took to get a clinical research position at the BC CDC, and his experience so far applying to medical school. Brody Lyons, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
I'd like to get started by asking you which Canadian universities you applied to and why you chose UBC.
Yeah, so finishing up in high school, I didn't really have too much of an idea where I wanted to go. I was the first child in my family to apply to Canadian universities, so I kept it pretty broad. I think I applied to UBC, SFU, UVic, as well as McGill, U of T,
Right.
Western, Queens. So pretty broad range. I didn't apply to any US ones, but I was just lucky to get the acceptance at UBC. And
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Did you just apply to sciences or did you apply to some other programs?
I just kept it broad. I kind of knew I wanted something in sciences. I didn't really know at the time that I wanted to go into biology, but
Right.
definitely knew sciences was the way for me.
Yeah. I know definitely in high school, I definitely felt there was a pressure and a culture towards science.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm quite happy with my choice, going to UBC. And but taking it back to like first year, like you said, you don't know what you really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
What attracted you to biology?
So as you know, like first year sciences is super broad, right? You get to try chemistry, bio, math, basically everything, right? Physics.
Yeah.
So you really get a good chance to try out everything. And for me, bio really stood out as just being one that I could see myself doing long term. It really fit with my goals to kind of apply to med school. You get a lot of the prereqs done by going
Right.
through the bio program. So yeah, it worked out well.
Were you always in biology or were you in a subdiscipline of bio? Like, for example, I was in chemical biology
Oh yeah.
and then I switched to chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the case for you?
It was always bio for me.
Always bio.
I know there's some possibilities, like you could get more specific with your bio degree and integrate some other aspects like marine biology or
Right.
really go down a tailored path. Mine, I just kept it kind of broad all the way throughout,
Mm-hmm.
and I still was able to like experiment with different courses. Like invertebrate biology was a big favorite of mine, and I know some friends that started going in with the idea of starting their degree doing one thing, and they completely switched by the end. But yeah, I just kept it broad.
That's great. I know in chemistry there's some disciplines. There's organic, inorganic, analytical, and a lot of people tend to focus towards one of those.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a lot more fields within chemistry than that, but up until recently, it felt pretty restricting.
Yeah.
Are there kind of certain foci in biology towards fourth year?
Definitely there are like you could really focus on genetics. Maybe you could go down any specific way you really want.
So what interested you?
More of the physiology side of things. Some anatomy related courses. Just things that kind of I thought would prepare me well for med school. So like there's this muscle physiology course that I really enjoyed. Included some biochemistry concepts in there. Those things kind of tie over into like preparing for the MCAT and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed some of those kind of those style of courses.
Were there some sort of skills that you didn't anticipate learning? Like certainly, in chemistry, learned how to use Excel, some other stuff like this. I know in bio, there's a lot of research paper reading and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are there some skills, maybe navigating databases? like PubMed or stuff like that? Are there some skills?
I'd say honestly, yeah, you're spot on. Like just being able to hold your ground on reading research papers, I'd say is like
Yeah.
such a big skill. Like not being overwhelmed by it, because at first I think the first course was probably either like Bio 140 or Bio 200, where they really started getting you to get comfortable reading these papers, because at first it's pretty brutal.
It's intimidating.
Right? You go through it, you realize you picked up nothing, and
Yeah.
you kind of just have to accept the fact that you don't understand any like the jargon that they're talking about or any of the concepts. But as you mature, as you get used to it, you realize you just gotta, it takes a couple passes sometimes, and you gotta work your way through reading the papers, and you get better at it
Yeah.
as you get along. So I'd say that was a really good skill that I didn't really think about. Another one is actually in Bio 300. They make you like learn for the statistics. You have to learn like to use R. That's
Right.
like some it's a software used to do. You can do a lot of different
Stats and variable manipulations and stuff like
exactly. So it's pretty powerful actually. I didn't really understand it at the time, like how useful it could be, but
that. Why am I doing this?
yeah, it just seems because it's just
I'm not on comp side.
yeah. Why am I putting in these different formulas? That seems a bit ridiculous. But after the fact, I think in third year, I started doing research more and more, and I was working with a fourth year PharmD individual who worked with me there, and he was doing a lot of statistics for a paper that he was doing, and he was showing me how he would be doing all the significance calculations, all the different running all the different operations on R, and because he took that class, or because he did some more extracurricular research on the side, he actually got pretty good at it, and that helped him in creating that paper that eventually got published, I think. So it's a good skill to have, at least to be familiar with.
I think something too coming with reading research papers is quite often I don't think there will be a point where you're gonna understand everything that's in the paper.
Yeah.
But you will get to a point where you understand a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I think you just have to keep persisting
Yeah.
and get through it, because I still remember like Bio 200 we had that paper project and I didn't perform too well actually. But now helping in a systematic review, and I'm doing some abstract and title screenings, and it goes much faster because you have a feel for it, and just come with practice.
As everything else, it's tough, but you got to get your reps in with that, and it's worthwhile because it is such a cool skill when you think about it. When you're looking at these papers, right, for a little bit you get the chance to kind of dive into like this super niche world, right, where only probably like a dozen people know about the research, right, and for a little bit you get to experience what some people have spent their lives researching, and you usually learn some really cool things with it. So it's a good one to have for sure.
How would you describe the culture in biology? Is there like a huge push? Everyone's very like meta oriented. Of course there's some people interested in the more botany route, but how do you gauge that?
That's a classic question, because that it comes with the territory, right? Like you just know that a large majority of people are kind of considering med or physio or dentistry and the usual suspects, and my experience with bio at UBC was really fantastic. Like I think from everyone that I met, at least, were great people, very encouraging, very good supportive community stuff, from what I saw, and maybe that's just lucky from my where I stood, but I know it does exist. I'm not sure. Maybe it depends on the university. It depends on the different programs, but I do know that there can be like a toxic culture associated with the med school grind and kind of getting striving for those goals. But I think luckily enough, I was pleasantly surprised with the good group of people that I was able to work with, and go to office hours with. All these people were all very on the same page and striving for the same goal, and kind of helping each other along the way. So,
do you have some advice for first years or incoming students who might be a little worried about finding a good group of friends? What would your advice be to them?
It's daunting at first, especially if you say you're moving provinces or you're coming here from overseas or anywhere else. It's always tough to make that 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 first move to start making friends. But for me, I was lucky because I I lived in BC my entire life. I had a good group of friends from my local high school that we were all stay connected, and we actually my roommate was one of my best friends from high school, and so I had a good group, a good core group to start off with, which was kind of like a lucky start. But I'd say for people that are really trying to branch out and kind of make those friends would be just look for clubs and look for ways to push yourself out of your comfort zone, kind of, just because more often than not I feel like it's just that first step into saying hi and the first step in just introducing yourself.
I agree.
People are often super receptive to it, right? Super friendly. Even if they maybe sometimes they don't, like, maybe they already have enough friends or something like that, you should still take that first attempt just to say hi, and it's always a good thing to just reach out and be friendly to people, because you don't know who you're going to run into
and who will end up being in a class later on in your degree.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many people that I met first year, and they were awesome, and then I see them later in like third, fourth year courses.
Yeah.
For I don't know if they're some are in the same program, some are in others, but then you reconnect, and it's really cool. But I agree. I think in class, even just like saying hi to the person next to you, like hi, my name's Octavian.
Introduce yourself.
Some people are in different programs too.
Yeah.
And that's a great topic of conversation. So
yeah, like, you don't have to become best friends with these people. Like, I think worst case, you still learn something new. Like, I think maybe you learn about a new program that you never heard about. Maybe you learn a new fact about, maybe they're doing research that connects you with a lab that you never heard about. So, and I talk about this with other friends a lot, but just kind of, the term networking is just kind of like, is a pretty, it's like such a kind of cliche. And I think, kind of, it's good to get away from the idea of networking. It's just kind of like, see it more as just, being friendly and just trying to make connections, and like, because if you think of networking, it's just such a cold and, kind of heartless word to like talk about. So I just look at it as just trying to be friendly and just meet new people.
Yeah. What do you think it's, in your experience, I don't know if you kind of identified with this, but a lot of people first year, they're like, oh, I'm pre-med, I'm pre-law, and I'm pre-graduated, stuff like this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like I definitely went in. I was like, yeah, I'm, pre-med, kind of boxed in. But then after a while, it's sort of like, I'm interested in healthcare. How do you feel about that? People saying they're pre-med.
I'm not a big fan of the term personally, but it's up to people, whatever they want to, however they want to go about saying that their goals for their career.
Right.
They're entitled to say that, but I think, I wouldn't personally say that, because I just I think keep an open mind throughout your degree as well, because your mind changes. It's never going to be a linear path.
Yeah.
And there's just certain connotations that kind of are associated with the word pre-med as well, as that aren't always positive. And I think it's better just to keep an open mind and just talk about how maybe you can be passionate about it, because I'm extremely passionate about a career in healthcare and in the future, and
medicine.
And medicine, and it's perfectly fine to say that. And
I think you need to be honest with what you want to do and what your goals are, and not try to fit in the herd and be like, oh, I'm pre-med, I'm with all these people.
Yeah.
Because by doing that, you're not going to stand out, in my opinion. So this brings me to another question.
Yeah.
I definitely faced this moment, but was there a moment where you're like, this isn't for me, I'm going to switch, I'm going to like go into business or something?
I knew for a long time that, probably since grade 11, that I had this goal in mind of, being a physician one day, and I just kind of have this mentality that where it's, that's just plan A, and there's no plan B, there's no plan C, and and funny enough, I talk about like, not usually things aren't like a straight line, but for me, it's actually always been that way. Like, obviously there's been tough classes and there's been bumps along the way, but for me, that idea in my mind, that dream has never deviated at all. Every day, the long days studying, as in the library,
late nights,
the long days of flashcards, on that was then the card of the day, and you're tired. But in the back of my mind, it always came back to medicine, and yeah.
What would you say are like the top three sort of study techniques you used and that were helpful? So, of course, Anki, some
Yeah.
flashcards.
Yeah.
What are some other ones?
That's a really good question because it takes years of trial and error to come up with these things, and I think it's a trial and error for each person to come up with their own unique, perfect study techniques. But for me, I kind of found my groove in second year. Started with it was COVID that year, so we had a lot of free time at home, and I found that gave me a really good opportunity to kind of just dial in my study techniques. And I started with Anki. You hear a lot about people using these flashcard things like Quizlet as well, and there's probably another half dozen that people talk about. But yeah, Anki worked the best for me. It's not the prettiest and it's not the flashiest, but it's kind of just meat and potatoes, and it does what it does, and it does it really well. Like,
Yeah.
it's not very aesthetic looking, but if your goal is just to kind of review it as much as possible and kind of get the active recall in, that's I'd say my favorite.
The active recall, spaced repetition as well.
Yeah.
I think with Quizlet, unless you get the premium, it's not sponsored, of course.
Yeah.
But like, it's distracting with like ads and stuff, and
Yeah.
they got your tabs open. I guess
Yeah.
you can full screen, but yeah, the spaced repetition that sort of built into Anki is really great.
Yeah.
And yeah.
On top of that, I'd say going to office hours was a huge one for me.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's an interesting one because it takes a lot of time to kind of go out of your way, and especially if it's in person, takes a lot of time to go find them, go to the room, talk to them, and then come back. But a lot of times TAs, profs have Zoom office hours too nowadays too. So I think it's worthwhile because it's so beneficial because not only are you seeing like the own gaps in your knowledge when you're talking about questions, you can't go there with you can't go there and you don't want to make a fool of yourself when you're talking to these people, right? You want to go there prepared and you want to ask good questions. And by even just doing that, kind of like mentally shifting the way you look at it, you're like, okay, I'm talking to this person, and I want to know enough, and I want to be able to communicate the things in a way that sound like I know what I'm talking about as well, right?
Yeah.
Where I can actually talk with them and like be passionate about their research with them and the knowledge with them. So that was a really cool shift. I think see it as like such a good resource to kind of take advantage of because it's there, and from what I've seen all the years, like going to office hours, it's just like 2 or 3 people there, right? Like it's just not taken advantage of, and it's there for the taking for sure, just to kind of talk with these amazing people.
We're going to segue into, how to get a research position later. But I think going to office hours, becoming familiar with the TAs, getting them to know your name, professor too, like, I think that's the first step. And a lot of people aren't willing to take it because they might be scared. But if you're scared, think of it as just one obstacle that you just have to overcome.
Yeah, it's definitely one that's worthwhile. I get it though. They can be intimidating sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're extremely well versed in this super specific topic, and it can be daunting. But it is so rewarding too. It's one of those ones that have such a great return on your investment for that time, I think. Yeah. And for a third thing, I would just say probably finding a good study group to keep yourself accountable with. Keep it small, probably like 3 people, 2-3 people, and just kind of be there for each other. It's tough. Morale gets low sometimes if you're getting too stressed out or too burnt out. And for me, I think going through with like-minded people, or people that see things differently as well. You want people to be having different perspectives on these things, and kind of pushing you along, and you help them along the same path as well. So it's a great thing.
How important do you think breaks are in terms of studying? And so within breaks, I'm talking about sleep, exercise, social.
Yeah.
How important is that in terms of getting good grades?
I think it's like probably one of the most important things. It's definitely like um, it's the first thing to go, right? Like when you say you're really stressed for something, usually the first thing to go out the window is the sleep schedule,
Yeah.
and your health and the food you eat, and it's unfortunate because that's probably some of the most important factors and that we kind of lose track of when we get stressed. Um, it's just your performance immediately just plummets when, as you know, like with all it's just countless studies, right? Like just it's impossible to even function probably like properly when you're getting not enough sleep. So um, that's something I've been trying to prioritize more over the years and just trying to become more strict and regimented with the sleep schedule because it's nice to have a later night or nice to do fun things as well, but I think at the end of the day you should be like trying to be as strict with the schedule as possible.
Yeah.
And if anything else, be like consistent with your sleep schedule because it's super important for sure.
I agree. I think, in establishing a good regiment routine and being consistent with it, that'll get you through midterms when other parts of your life start to fall apart, like your sort of your nutrition or your lack of exercise. But I think something we didn't touch on, but we could, is staying on top of your studies. Not a lot of lectures are recorded now. Attending lectures is important, first of all, because you can ask questions live. Maybe not first year, second year, you don't ask questions. There's so many people. Third, fourth year, you just don't care anymore. I've got questions. I'm busy. I can't go to TA office hours anymore. So I ask questions.
Yeah.
I think staying on top, not leaving a bunch of lectures to watch. It's just a trap. It's a trap. And you watch them on 2 times speed. And if it's necessary, maybe you can get it done. But it's not sustainable and it's not enjoyable. And the early undergrad years pass by fast. Undergrad in general, it goes fast.
Yeah.
So to really enjoy it, I think you need to be present and have a schedule and stick to it.
Well said.
So we'll wrap up on the section about biology at UBC, but my last question is, given what you know now, if you had to restart, would you major in biology again?
I definitely have heard more things now that kind of intrigue me about other possibilities. Like I think they have like a neurobiology program, I believe, or is it?
They have neuroscience for
neuroscience,
sure.
yeah.
Maybe neurobiology.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, neuroscience, and that would be. I definitely really enjoyed some of the bio-related, like Bio 371 was like neurobio, and that was really one that I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did. So neuroscience would be another one I consider. I think ISci would be one I would.
What's ISci?
It's
Is that abbreviation or?
Yeah, it stands for what's it called? Integrated Sciences.
Integrated Science, yeah.
So it's kind of you get to pick and choose the different parts that make up your degree. So you could, one I hear about a lot is like integrating microbio with like biochemistry or
right.
You get to pick and choose more of like how you build your degree, and that's something actually I didn't even know about going into undergrad. So I would give that some more thought as well, because there's some courses that you could definitely that are required for other degrees that you could potentially not have to take doing that. But I think right now I'd still say 90% certain I'd retake bio, because the profs are just so amazing, so passionate. I literally can't say enough positive things about the interactions that I've had with the profs at UBC, and I think the courses that you have to take really help kind of prepare you for a lot of different career paths, as well as career paths in physio or med or pharmacy. Like they do a good job of really giving you a broad range of things to grasp onto.
Yeah. I think another thing too, going through first year, second year, this is in high school too, you have to take a lot of courses, things that you don't want to take. But I was talking to a friend about this, and he made the good point of saying that you don't know what you like until you try it. And, I'm not the best at art, but I didn't know that until I tried it. You know what I mean? So I think you have to go through, the chemistry, the physics, to really flesh out what you're passionate about, what you're interested in. The passion may not come after first year, but what you're at least interested in or good at and want to explore further. I don't think there's a poor decision to make here. I think just explore what you're interested in, and
these are the years to do it. Like if any time in your life if you should be exploring things, I think it should definitely be open.
Just be now. Yeah. And be open-minded about everything.
Take electives that you never even thought. Yeah, take that creative writing. Take that Latin. It's Latin course. Like it's so everything's there, and UBC has so much to offer. Be open to it, and don't be afraid to take some risks and take some things you didn't think you wanted to. So.
And don't just take the advice off Reddit, okay? Like, try to find people who are like third, fourth year real humans. Don't be swayed by that. So the next section I want to talk about are some extracurriculars and co-op. Yeah. So could you tell us about, extracurriculars you maintained while in school, whether you worked part-time, you did intramurals, clubs, and how that all played into, your studies too?
Absolutely. First year was pretty busy, as many first years know. You're completely just thrown into the deep end with all the different courses, and you're trying to be independent. Most people just moved out, or even if you're not, you're commuting a lot. So first year is tough to kind of fit those things into an already busy schedule. So I didn't do much clubs or too much volunteering in first year, just to kind of get adapted to the whole university lifestyle. A couple things I did was like volunteering with a group that was called the Vancouver Virology Center, where we went to the downtown east side and we do blood tests to kind of provide it for people on the street who wanted to get their hepatitis checked, see if get their test results for hepatitis, as well as give them some food and do some surveys with them as well. So that one was very, very interesting and kind of carried over to some of the things I did later on, just more things related to outreach support for the downtown east side people affected with homelessness, and other things, similar aspects, but things like doing volunteering with the Muscular Dystrophy Canada, kind of helping recruit people for some of their different surveys and for their different events that they were holding. So those are a few.
So that was first year.
That was the trail end of first year, and kind of carried over into second year. And then second year was tough to kind of continue those things with the COVID going on.
Right.
But then third year picked up again, and just kind of continuing on with different groups, like the Vision for Life Foundation was one that spent some time with, and found it to be really, really interesting to do more work on the downtown east side and just kind of just help that population.
Yeah. So those were sort of key volunteer things. Mm-hmm. I know you also worked at special events as like a waiter and catering and stuff like that. Yeah. So was that sort of your main part-time position that you started doing? Or tell me about that.
Yeah, so the catering was very much part-time. It's a super flexible position where we just, it's a team called White Table Catering, and we would just be going to weddings and special events that would be held around the city, and it's pretty cool to be doing that just on the side. So now I don't really do it as much anymore, but it was a good thing to do on the side.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely manageable doing a part-time job. I think shift work, where you might have 1-2 shifts a week, 10 hours. Okay, you have 10 hours in a week, in my opinion, or less. But like, I think it's important to find extracurriculars like that, where it's not just academics, but you're also working on other skills too, like communication and I don't know, maybe sales, like stuff like that.
Yeah, those kind of different extracurriculars you do definitely strengthen the things that you really don't get from your classes, and your kind of strengthens those soft skills, like you said, like communication, teamwork, even just professionalism with the catering. We were dressed up in the white dress shirts, black pants, and
of course
you have to maintain a very professional demeanor and attitude out there. So all these things comes back to just being comfortable putting yourself in different situations to strengthen things that you didn't even know you needed or didn't think you would be able to get from these events.
Hmm. Did you get involved in any clubs?
Um, first year you go in bright-eyed and
Yeah,
bushy-tailed, and
there's a club event
yeah,
day.
you sign up for every email newsletter possible,
Yeah.
and you go in with good intentions, but I didn't really um, end up sticking with any long term. You sign up for cooking clubs and various different things that sound interesting at the time, but
Hmm.
um, yeah, I kind of just spent my time focusing more on the academics because um, that was my main focus, and yeah, not really too many clubs long term.
Yeah, fair enough. I think clubs can be a good step though
Mm.
for getting experience and just building on the resume
Mm-hmm.
or LinkedIn, because it's tough to get experience. So like a lot of early experience will be volunteer or
Mm.
will be club based.
Yeah.
But I think using that as like a stepping stone to like the next step, which
Mm.
is research with professors,
Yeah.
which we'll get into. But I'm curious, how did you get your position at the virology?
That was just through, I think I knew a friend who had just applied, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure where he saw the posting, but he did come across it somehow, and we just wanted to apply together, both similar goals and similar ideas of where we wanted to go in life, and we just kind of went through it together, and we started just doing the volunteering together, uh, yeah, through that.
How important do you think volunteering is as an undergraduate in hindsight?
Extremely important. Not even just for like the usual reasons, like, you know, it's so important for like the applications and, just showing you're a well-rounded person. That you're not just
Pure
your
academics.
pure GPA.
Yeah.
You're not just in your room all day. I think it's so cool because, it kind of shows what society can do, like when, you have good intentions too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not completely altruistic, of course, but it shows that there are people out there trying to help make a difference for causes that they're passionate about, and they're doing it not getting paid and sometimes not getting recognition even, right? But they're just doing it because it's something they believe in and they think that'll it'll help some people. So I think it's pretty cool in that sense, and just like anything else, like sports or the catering, it kind of builds skills that you wouldn't really expect
Yeah.
going into it. You really kind of, I really loved the human interaction with the people that we did. We would do surveys with the Vancouver Virology group, and it was just so fascinating hearing these people's stories, right? Um, and connecting with them on a way that felt very human, felt very special that you don't really kind of get in other kind of situations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I really appreciated and really embraced the opportunity that I had
Yeah.
with that group.
And one opportunity will open a huge host of other opportunities,
Yeah.
right? So finding that, like you mentioned, maybe you have a friend who's found a institution or a group that's volunteering doing research.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have otherwise met them
Yeah.
if you weren't in the club or whatever. So I think that's key. We don't want to use networking too much, that term, but that first step, don't think of it as one thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to this new group. There's all these people with these experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and they might know someone in a group who can connect you, or they can connect you, or you can help them.
Yeah.
I think often I'll go into situations and I'll be like, well, what can I do for this person
Mm.
before I ask them something, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel people are more willing to help you if you can help them. And we're all trying to get better. So,
Yeah. No, that's so true. And you never know where one connection will lead you. And
yeah.
from what I've seen, just reaching out to people and cold emailing people is how nice people are.
Yeah.
These people are often incredibly busy, incredibly high achieving individuals, if they're doing research or they're doing stuff in academia, and they will still kind of go out of their way to connect with you sometimes. If you
Help
want
you
to,
out.
if you
Yeah.
want to have a call with them and pick their brain about things, they will often be super receptive to that idea because they know that they were in that position at one time and they want to give back. It's it's such a cool thing. It's kind of to see that people do really want to kind of, without any real gain to them, they know that they're helping someone that might not be able to help them back, and they are okay with that because they know that they're helping someone achieve something that they already.
Which feels great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel too bad.
What would you say to someone who wants to get involved, but they're like, I don't know where to start, but I want to find some volunteering?
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I'd say, start talking to people. Start that conversation with people. Just tell them what you're interested in life. Maybe they'll know someone. Talk to people in class, like we talked about.
Okay.
But again, I think another interesting thing is, if you have this idea in mind, like a passion, and you really think that this would be beneficial, this will help people, this will help a specific group of people, don't be afraid to go start that thing, right? Like if you have this thing in mind and it doesn't exist, or you can't find something that fits that niche exactly, don't be afraid to like go start that club. Go talk to some people to help you kind of make that dream come true, and because that would be something that you're way more passionate about, right? Clearly, if you're the one starting it and you're the one backing it, right? That's something that you'll put way more passion, way more time, because all these things take away the time from your day where you could be spending it otherwise. So I always just really tell people that, don't do something that you're kind of half invested in. Don't do something that kind of just kind of gets the job done.
Or just as another item to list.
Yeah, not just another checkbox to, for grad school or for med, right? Like do something that actually, lights a fire in you and kind of will keep you, because it'll get tough eventually. Eventually exams will come back, and when
you've agreed to sign up and volunteer, so you got to do it.
When the going gets tough, then it'll be the thing that you're actually passionate about that you keep going with. So
I think another tip I'd give would be to find places you want to volunteer or work at, and see if they have volunteer opportunities. I mean, you just go on Google, just search volunteer, opportunities in Vancouver, and you can find there's a lot of people who are willing to hire volunteers. For example, my first research position, a friend helps me get it, but if you go onto like BC Children's Hospital website and you look at the principal investigators, people doing research, if you go into their biography, there'll be a tab and it says volunteers, and a lot of researchers have a lot of volunteers, and it just takes that first cold email. Email them, and express your interest. Do a little research on the background, the projects they're working on. Maybe talk about some skills you may bring to the team. That's the first step. And there's so many opportunities like that out there. So many researchers. There's definitely something for everyone. So
I'm glad you mentioned cold emailing though, because that is in this generation we have access to like anyone in the world. If you want to go and do research in Japan on a super micro specific thing, right? You can go do that. Like you can go reach out and you can spend a year learning to speak the language.
Learning what? Give something super niche.
Right?
How do you know?
So I think just cold emailing, it's scary and it's also very daunting, like office hours is, and but often all these good things are not easy, and it's definitely one that's worthwhile as well.
You also learn about that interaction over email and how to interact with people in a position you want to get to maybe, and your emails get better. Over time. With that said, I think everyone needs to improve their email signatures. Put your name, undergraduate student, the address of the institution. Maybe put a little photo of like, UBC logo at the bottom of your email. Your faculty, your program, keep it consistent. Make like navy blue or the color of your, institution. I think that really adds to it.
That's a good one.
Not many people do it, but that stands out.
Yeah.
Shows the extra effort. So I'm curious, how do you stay organized? How do you manage your time? Can you walk me through, how you approach like a heavy workload?
Yeah, that's something that I've had to kind of continue to refine over the years as well. You try one thing and you realize it's just not cutting it. For me, it's become like a combination of a lot of things. So you need a calendar of some sort, either Google Calendar or Apple or whatever works best across. Usually you want one that you can open up on all your devices to keep it all connected. So something like that is crucial.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think a digital calendar becomes increasingly important nowadays because of Zoom calls, invitations,
Mm-hmm.
you can link it and it just will stack in your calendar.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
And it's perfect. You can edit it super easily. You can change things, move things around. Um, on top of that, usually you need some form of to-do lists. So the one that I found is I think called Things 3. It's a great one that's cross-platform as well, so you can keep track of everything. I just put all basically I use that almost as like a reminder, like anything that pops up in daily life. If you just want to hold that thought for a little bit longer, just immediately put it in there because these if you don't, it's gonna be gone the next minute.
Yeah.
So you need something like that. And then on top of that, I usually use like a physical to-do list as well.
Yeah.
Just because I think each day you have to have like you can have like the huge one that you have some digital one, which is perfectly fine. But I think you want one for the day just to know what you're gonna tackle, like super specific. And just I think even just put 3 things that say are the most important thing for that day. And if you accomplish those 3 things, then it was a successful day.
I agree.
I really like doing that because you get overwhelmed. You get into like the habit of like I'm gonna put 20 things on here, like
Yeah.
make my bed, and then like you're just like you love crossing them off, but you find out that at the end of the day, usually you don't get those main things done, and then what's the point, right? So
I think we definitely sometimes, at least I do this. I overestimate what I can get done in a day, 2 days, but
yeah,
because I like getting stuff done, I don't like delaying things. Like projects are tough because I want it done. But I think if if you need a week, give yourself a week. You know. But I agree. You need a list every day.
yeah. So I think those 2 would be the biggest ones where I saw the most benefit from just calendar and to-do list, and then on top of that, you can always get fancier with whatever you want. Organization wise, having having like sticky notes by your bed is also a good one. Like sometimes you're just lying there at night and
Yeah.
you have great ideas and you got to put it somewhere. So it's also good to fall asleep. You don't want to be
Yeah.
keeping yourself awake thinking about all these things. Just write it down. It's really nice, and then it's gone. You can check it in the morning. That's a good one. But yeah, organization. You can go on and on forever. Like
Yeah.
your bag. Like how do you organize your bag? Like how do you organize your room? Like you can definitely optimize every aspect of your life, but just find what works well for you.
How would you say you learn to manage stress with exams, whether it be interviews? Everyone's a little different, but common stressors are with tests and stuff like
Yeah.
that. What have you found has helped relieve some stress?
Yeah, luckily I've never really found test to get too anxious with tests. But I think definitely the stress builds up from just the school load, and when you start thinking about your future and what everything what you need to do to get to achieve some things. I think really grounding yourself in the moment, just remembering to take every day at a time. That was something that I really reminded myself a lot of while taking the MCAT. You think of it like, okay, this is a 3-4 month journey. How am I gonna even think about a month from now? You just can't get into that mindset like, okay, I'm gonna do a full length in 3 weeks. It's like, just take it a day. What are you gonna do today? Write it down, get the to-do list out, and really just ground yourself in that. Keep yourself in that moment because it just spirals out, gets so overwhelming so quickly. So I think that's a huge one. And then you have to have these other things in your life, these other pillars to kind of keep you
Grounded.
grounded as well. I think family is a big one for me. Always comes back to family. Spending time with my brothers, my dog, my parents. Just you have to have the support friends in your life to talk to about things. Exercise is another big pillar. Whether that be running or going to the gym, you have to stay because it's good for your mind. I found that it's really keeps you sharp. I'm sure you're familiar with that, and it's just it's a big one to keep your mind clear and kind of take your mind off things for a while because school it bogs you down.
You kind of get groggy.
Yeah.
If you're not going out,
No.
you get caught up in your head, and you got to get out. You got to get physical.
Yeah.
Even if it's a walk.
Yeah. Like,
or a quick jog around campus or something.
Get the blood going a little bit.
Like.
Yeah. So working out, whatever it is, maybe that's reading, maybe that's, just something to take your mind off things as well, I think.
No, that's great. I agree with all that. Now, I know biology offers co-op, but you didn't do it.
Yeah.
Can you tell me why you chose not to?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure to do it, just from like seeing all your friends doing it and seeing everyone around you doing it. So it was tempting and very close to doing it, but I just ended up going down a different path. At the beginning of second year, I knew I wanted to do research. I knew that was something that I was passionate about and wanted to incorporate into my life somehow. So I just started looking into summer programs that offered like research positions, and
Do you have the names of some? For example, there's
yeah.
NSERC.
Yeah, NSERC's a
Yeah.
huge one. The BC Children's Hospital does a great summer research program. Faculty of Medicine does a summer research program, and yeah, there's so many. Even just at UBC, and it doesn't even have to be at UBC. You could go something in different part of Vancouver. UBC offers some great ones. So I stumbled upon the Faculty of Medicine's summer research program, and that one was really jumped out to me as being a really great opportunity, because it just also aligns with kind of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Meeting these PIs and doctors would be just such a cool opportunity. So I reach out to some of the PIs on there, and got lucky enough to get some responses, and I got to really work with a group that I really wanted to work with and really aligned with some of my goals and aspirations, and it's just been a fantastic team, and I haven't looked back since. It's been a
Yeah.
great 3 years or so.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
When you applied though, at this point, you had worked at the Vancouver Virology Center,
Yeah.
Muscular Dystrophy Canada.
Yeah.
Had you started working at Vision for Life at that point?
Yeah, that was probably also sometime in second year, but all these things are kind of on and off. Like Muscular Dystrophy Canada, they're not always holding events. Most of them are like over the summer, so it's all like, even though you're with a group for a long time, it fluctuates. Like they pop in and out of your life, kind of,
Yeah.
when you're doing the actual roles for it. So
But those things definitely helped you get that position, don't you think?
I think so, as well as the cold emailing, just
Okay.
doing your due diligence when you're reaching out to these guys, because show your passion for it. Like if you find a group, like you could be working with them for a few years, right? Like in my case, like you could be, maybe that'll be your future. Maybe you'll end up doing like, maybe that'll change your whole frame.
Trajectory, yeah.
Yeah, like you could maybe will be doing a PhD down the line, right? Who knows, with this group. So don't just give out a generic template to these people. Like you said, spend 30 minutes to an hour, like actually research them, and show them that you're passionate about it, and really just really hone in on your cold emailing, because it's such a crazy powerful skill.
I think so. I'm in co-op now, and I think I'm an advocate for co-op because it's so good for so many reasons. First of all, you get access to a huge database of positions specifically for students. If you go on LinkedIn, Glassdoor, any company webpage, Indeed, you're not going to find necessarily too many co-op positions.
No.
But through co-op and scope, there's hundreds.
Yeah.
And there's also, it's through the summer, through the winter. So I think that's a good resource if you're unsure about how to approach, a researcher like that or an opportunity like that. I think co-op could be good for someone who doesn't necessarily have the experiences we may have or might have gotten for a second year. I think co-op can be a good tool for people with a little bit more academics to get that first start.
Yeah. No, I think it's a fantastic resource, and it's just something that if I given another year, maybe if I didn't find that research position, I would definitely take advantage of the co-op at UBC. And like you said, it's a really great one for a lot of reasons, and
But it's not necessary.
Just not. I think that's what people have to remember, that there's so many different paths you can take.
Yeah.
And just remember that what one person did doesn't mean you have to do the same. And
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I was going to ask what the alternative to co-op was, but I think, actually, you know what? I think we'll do that. So the alternative to co-op is to, I think, get some experience find a professor you're interested in, or a PI at BC Children's, for example,
Yeah.
and cold email and reach out.
Yeah.
How many attempts do you think it takes to like land a position? Like, it's not going to happen on the first time.
No.
You know, like.
And, a lot of these researchers and PIs, they may want to help, and a lot of people really do want to help up and coming research aspiring students, but they're just crazy busy, and sometimes they don't get around to their emails. So I'd say if you're cold emailing, don't be afraid to like put out 20, 30 emails, and doing it in the right way. It does take a lot of time. Don't get me wrong, but it is worth it because if you send out 20, 25, you're gonna get back maybe like 4 or 5 responses.
Yeah.
I'd say that'd probably be a good return.
Good return, yeah.
And that you only need one. You only need one person to be willing to give you that chance in their lab. So.
I think something with that too is when you're actually composing the email, don't attach like unsolicited attachments like your resume or stuff like that. I think you need to reach out first and see if they're accepting and if there's an opportunity there, and then if they connect, then send your. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so mine actually, I would take a different approach, like, because I would just attach the resume on that first attempt anyways, and because they know if they want it, then they don't have to reach out again. It kind of
saves time.
It saves time and eliminates that second response. And if they know they're not accepting, then they're not going to open it anyways.
Right.
So I think it's a good thing because they can just open it up, see kind of where you're at, how much experience you have. So yeah, I'd probably be in favor of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I've been doing it wrong.
It's working out all right.
Okay. The next section is applying to medical school. So for someone interested in applying to medical school, how and where do you start?
In one word, how would you start?
Yeah, where do you start?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, let's start with the cycle. How does the cycle start?
Yeah.
And work for most institutions?
Yeah, that's a great question because, this is something that, because you hear about it, even though I knew I was going to apply to med schools, like from the beginning of university, you don't really know how it goes until you really start running through it, and you just hit the ground running, and it is kind of scary. You start opening up applications and you start filling out things, but so basically the cycle looks like maybe I'll just do the Canadian one first because I'm not as familiar with the U.S. application cycle, but basically they usually open up sometime. The application opens up sometime over the summer, and usually people take the MCAT either that summer or ideally before it to kind of have your score already ready to know if you're really eligible for med school. And so you can start sometime in the summer usually, and it stays open until, at least for UBC and the Ontario ones, stays open until mid-September for UBC and the beginning of October for Ontario. And Ontario uses this one website, one database for all the Ontario med schools, which is kind of convenient.
Do you remember what it's called?
Yeah, it's called OMSAS.
OMSAS, okay.
And it's there's some individual components for each school that you have to fill out. Maybe for like some schools you have to fill out more essays and more personal statements, but it's all kind of neatly compiled within that one website. So they close in September, October. Hopefully you fill out all the sections. You got your it's a bit different from the U.S. where you don't have to do personal statements and secondary statements or secondary essays, and instead you're just kind of filling out a lot more. It's a lot more extracurricular based from what I've heard. Very focusing on kind of understanding what this person is outside of their academics, because they already have access to all your MCAT, your GPA. Right. They really want to know, what does this person look like when they're not in school, and as well as employment, education, and some other things as well. But that's the biggest thing I'd say to talk about is extracurriculars.
Can you give us an example? So I think you might have told me like at UBC in their application at least wasn't there like 20 to 30 slots?
Yeah.
Now they want as of 5 years, experience.
Ideally.
So ideally in the past 5 years, you have 20 to 30.
Yeah, UBC is a bit more accepting with how far back they go. I guess if it's like a really, I think,
A longer, more sustained sort of activity. That's
yeah,
fine.
if
Yeah.
it's really something that kind of defined you as a person, and
Yeah.
say maybe you did it during high school only, and it kind of stopped off near the beginning of a university, I'd say still put it down if it's really something you can talk about passionately. Um, Ideally, they really want the university and onwards kind of just to show, because it's more the person you are.
Right.
But yeah, they want a lot of entries, and it's
Is that stressful?
tough to just seeing, because when you see the list of entries there, you know that if you're not filling it, that other students are.
Mm-hmm.
But that was kind of a dilemma I was working through. Just I ended up not filling it all, just kind of leaving a few entries, not filling it, yeah, all the extracurricular entries, just because, after a certain point, it's kind of just becoming filler, and you know that those things that you're adding don't really mean as much to you. And while you could still put them down, maybe they were something that you did 3 weekends only.
Yeah.
You spent 3 weekends doing, right? You could obviously put it down, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I ended up just putting down everything that meant a lot to me, and meant really kind of showed who I am outside of school. So. Well, we'll see. This is my first application cycle, so.
So, are you still in the process right now of applying, or how many have you applied to? Or are you finished?
Yeah, I've applied to 7 Canadian med schools, and
Okay.
those are all done now.
When will you hear back in the cycle? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so UBC is like mid-December, I believe, early to mid-December.
This December.
Yeah.
Wow.
So within a month probably, and that's just to hear back about interviews. So
Right.
if you get an interview offer, then it continues on. If you don't, then perhaps I'm not sure if you get waitlisted for interviews, but otherwise it's kind of, that's it for that cycle, for that school.
Mm-hmm.
But
So this summer you took the MCAT,
yes, I
right?
did,
Some people, they take it like in third year summer,
yeah.
and then they do their fourth year, and then they apply.
Mm-hmm.
So the way you've done it though, this cycle, you have a year off school.
Yeah.
Because you took the MCAT at the end of your degree.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had taken it in your third year, you could have applied
Straight out.
out.
Yeah.
So in theory, you could have continued undergrad straight to med.
Immediately, yeah.
So when would you have to apply in undergrad to make that happen?
Yeah, so you would have had to apply as well in third year.
In third year.
So in that summer of third year, you would be doing the MCAT, or maybe
And applying, pretty much.
applying,
Yeah.
unless you did the MCAT in second year.
Oh, it's early sort of September, the application, right?
Yeah, so yeah, it closes. That's another thing I'd recommend starting the application sooner than early September.
It takes yeah.
It deserves a lot of attention and detail, and so definitely start sooner than that. And so yeah, if you wanted to go into med school directly out of university, yeah, you take the MCAT second or third year, apply in third year, and you'd wait the whole fourth year. That whole fourth year would be waiting to hear back about interviews and hearing back about acceptances.
So you could be interviewing in your fourth year.
You
In
could
theory.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, but while you're in fourth year, you could be, that's crazy to think about. But yeah, you could definitely be interviewing and then continuing right out.
Do you know anyone who's done that?
I know 2 people that did that.
Were they successful?
I mean, I know a lot of people that have applied, and for them to have done it straight out of undergrad is one tremendous feat. Truly, just like to have the maturity and to have the
Experience.
even just like the understanding of what it takes to do an application process is not trivial at all. So to be able to do that while handling maybe a full course load, while handling volunteering, maybe research as well, is truly impressive. So yeah, no, huge props to those few that I know that got in.
How long did you spend this summer on your MCAT?
I think I spent roughly 3 months. I finished my final exams at the end of April, and I took a week or so off after graduating, and just spent that week just recharging and just kind of getting mentally preparing myself for what was to come with the MCAT, and then straight from that I kind of just dived right in, review phase, reading the Kaplan books for like a month or a month and a half there.
So you used the Kaplan set.
I did, yeah.
There's another popular set.
Princeton Review.
Princeton Review.
Yeah.
But you found success with the Kaplan.
Yeah, like, I think it doesn't...
This isn't sponsored.
One day. I think it matters less about the book that you read. Like, you could find, use any of them really and probably get a similar... You can get any result with any of them, right? And Kaplan was good. It wasn't too much information. It wasn't too little. But I think... Yeah, people talk a lot and put a lot of emphasis on like the review phase. I think definitely should not overemphasize that. Just kind of get through that phase and just expose yourself to the material once, and then immediately start jumping into like practice questions and full lengths. Those will be way better return on your investment than rereading the Kaplan or Princeton Review.
How do you get access to full lengths and stuff like that? Are there only a few available each year, or you find previous year? Do you go on Reddit? I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, it's a good question. I didn't know at first too. It's like all these things are trial and error for the first trial run you do, and for me, you can find third-party ones like Blueprint or Exam Crackers and all these other ones. Usually they offer like one free one. Even maybe Kaplan and some of the review books offer one free.
They come with the set. I think there's one sometimes.
Yeah, so you probably can find, like, you can piece together, like, one full length from a lot of these ones, and you could probably get, like, half a dozen full lengths from that, if that's your goal, to get as many as possible. But otherwise, your majority of them are going to be coming from the AAMC, so, like, the official test makers, and they make the actual exam, too, so you're going to be getting...
So they offer practice.
Yeah, they offer, like, probably, I think it might be 5 full lengths, and... Those are the best indication of what the real thing's going to be like.
How similar was it?
Cannot discuss.
Cannot discuss. Fair enough. Do you think 3 months was enough?
I think 3 to 4, maybe a little bit extra longer, because I did get the UWorld bundle as well, so I paid for that. And I'd say if I could go back, I would have spent more time, because there's like 3,000 practice questions involved with that set, and I think I probably got halfway through it, and they're just so detailed, so meticulously crafted, and yeah, big fan of them. And I would go back if I could. I would have spent more time finishing those, because I think I would have spent less time on the review phase, and maybe I would probably just under a month I would spend for the review phase, and then I would just like double down on review questions and full lengths probably.
So when you say review phase, were you sort of interleaving like questions within that, or would you review for a week and do questions on the weekend, or how would you set it up?
Yeah, so my way of like not forgetting the material was using like pre-made Anki decks.
Right.
Some common ones are like the Miles Down one, probably synonymous with MCAT now. Like everybody knows about it, and that one's huge. So I would just kind of like review that on the weekends, or even at the end of the days if I could, kind of squeak it in there.
And supplement with reading as well?
Supplement with reading, yeah, and just I experiment with taking notes for a while too, because that's what we're basically trained to do, and I don't think I would do that again. I wouldn't. It feels good. Everyone loves.
You feel like you're doing something.
You're like, oh, it's so productive, and I have beautiful notes, and just you realize it absolutely changes nothing. Like there's literally, I couldn't tell you if it actually even changed anything by doing a little bit of notes. So I stopped that pretty quickly, and then just shifted just to doing the tried and true Anki cards. Even that, like, I would say it's mostly just beneficial for like the Psych-Soc section, where it's like super vocab and definition heavy, because it's just kind of, if you can recognize the term, you'll have a decent chance of getting it right. But for the other sections, I don't know if even the Anki was even too helpful, because the questions that they ask are just so much more involved, so much more applied than even the review books or even the Anki cards prepare you for.
In your settings on Anki, have you experimented with, for example, like in my setup, I don't have it say how many cards are left. I'm just focused on putting, an hour into the study, because I think sometimes some students may get caught up in the number of cards they're completing, and these aren't quality reviews,
just trying to get through as many as possible.
Yeah, and I think it's the quality and the intention of the effort in each card that the quantity you get through.
Absolutely.
What do you think about that?
That's a really good point. You know, I catch myself trying to get through as many cards as well too. If you have like a lot overdue,
Yeah.
right? What can you do? So I think that's actually, I've never tried not showing the number of cards left. That's pretty interesting. One that I really like is just, you know, experiment with different extensions you can get. Like Anki allows a lot of tailoring to your own kind of wants and what works well for you. So you can get things like the heat map. I think is really cool because that one's great. It shows like
the whole year.
Yeah, it shows
You gotta fill it in green.
Yeah, you cannot. You don't want to miss a day. Like it's so you know, it's a bit perfectionism and a bit OCD, but you want to see like, so it fills in like a little green box or a blue box depending on which one you have for each day. That
What color's yours?
I got blue.
Blue?
Yeah.
Okay, I got green.
Oh yeah. So like for each day that you complete it, it shows a gradient of the color green for how many you did, right? So obviously you want them to all be like maxed out.
Super dark.
So if you're, you know, slightly so you miss a day, you know, it shows a blank spot on that grid, and it kind of
stay wasted.
Reminds you that you're like, what am I doing? So that's a good one. Yeah.
So if you were to have changed your approach, you would have not taken notes or as many notes, and you would have tried to get to the reviews in full lengths.
Absolutely.
And you would have maybe given yourself 4 months?
Yeah. You know, it's not always possible depending on, you know, maybe when you finish the school year or when you have school starting, or if you want to go on vacation. Like I did 3 months, no vacation, no real breaks.
I didn't hear from you.
Yeah,
I think we hung out once, and then you left early. You're like, I got some Anki to do. We're like, what?
Gotta get back. No.
But I respect it.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. Like, you know, do something that is sustainable. For me, that worked because that's how that worked well for me. But I think I also did a lot of things on the side. Like I would still be like do exercise and going on little mindfulness walks, and like, you know, you gotta stay sane.
Necessary.
Yeah. So, you know, find something that works well for you is always the tried and true way of doing it, because what works for us might not even work for someone else. So, but I think you can't go wrong with just spending more time on doing the review questions and doing full lengths, because it's a bit of a shock when this is your first trial run with MCAT, going through it, and you've only looked at the books and you've only looked at Anki cards, and you go through your first full length, you're like, this is insane. Like, this is, you know, it's not it's not crazy, but it's like, it's just so different from, like, it's not just, do you recognize this word, and did you see this somewhere? It's like, you actually have to apply the skills that you've learned, and that the sooner you get acquainted with that reality, I think the better off you are for the process.
What was the section that was maybe newest to you, given from your biology background?
Yeah.
Maybe the psych section. What was your experience there?
I actually love the psych section. Like I took a few psych courses throughout my undergrad, and just a huge fan of it. Honestly, if I went back, I might even take a minor in psych. Like,
oh yeah,
it's such a cool field. Sociology, I was definitely not as familiar with, but by far, like, it's not even close, is just the car section. Being just newest to me and not familiar with how to even study for it, because, you know, you hear people say, oh, you can't study for it, or you can't really do anything about it, but you definitely can. You just got to keep practicing those passages. But it is so different from anything else, because, you know, chem, biochem, you know, OChem, all, you know, can be tricky, all can be tough, not to say otherwise, but we know if you're in, like, the sciences, you know how to study for that, right? Like, you know how to prepare yourself for that. But for cars, when you get, like, a bad score, you're like, what do I even do? You just look at it, you're like, I don't know what to do. And the time is a huge factor. Like, you're trying to read, like, you have to read fast, and you have to comprehend and analyze this thing, and, you know, it's multiple choice, so that might sound easy, but that honestly makes it tougher, because everything is just so nuanced. It's so it's shades different from each other, and you kind of have to decipher which one's the wrong answer.
For those who don't know, CARS is a critical analysis and reasoning section, right? Yeah. There's another section like that too, that's sort of more critical based, isn't there?
That's the the main one, and then I guess psych-social is kind of similar, but
Okay.
I'd say that was definitely the most just different from the other three. It's kind of like the outlier of the
Right.
the 4 sections.
Well, that's everything that we set out to cover today. I'd like to thank you for your time, Brody.
Thanks
You
for
shared a
having me.
lot today, so thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and best of luck with the podcast. It's super
Thank
exciting.
you.
So yeah, thanks.